Clerk, are we all set to go?
I don't see Kate Nelson.
She was there.
She was there. I don't see her anymore.
Do we have a quorum while we're waiting for her? Appears that we do. Okay. Well then, since it is 6 o'clock, I will go ahead and call this meeting to order for the Thursday, September 23rd, 2021 meeting of the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Agency. And we will begin with roll call, Mr. Clerk.
All right. Kathleen Taylor,
Here.
Kate Nelson,
Here.
Kyle West, absent. Larry Chesney,
Here.
Mark Johnson,
Here.
Peter Gower,
Here.
Sarah Travilicek,
Here.
Scott Carey, and Shelley Reed.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is the salute to the flag. So I'll ask that everybody rise, and I will ask Commissioner Chesney to lead us this evening.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you very much. So the next item is the approval of the agenda. There are a couple of modifications to the agenda that we need to make this evening. The first, approval of the minutes. The minutes were not prepared prior to this meeting, so we will not be approving the minutes of the August 26th meeting. And the second item is item 6C. We received a request from the applicant to continue that item. So we will continue that until the point when it is re-agendized. So with those two changes, I am looking for a recommendation for approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chair, move to approve with those modifications.
Thank you. I have a motion from Commissioner Gower. Looking for a second.
Chesney, second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries with the approval of the agenda. Next up is public comment. Mr. Clerk, do we have any public comment, first of all? And second of all, can you give us a quick run through in case anybody does want to do it online?
Yes, of course. We have no public comment, either digital or in person, and I'll just quickly take folks through how to leave public comment if you want to do it via Zoom. Just share my screen here. Okay. Okay, if you want to leave digital public comment, you simply go to tmrpa.org. And then you will see this little red box here on our front page. You just click to access a digital public comment card. I got to move a screen around real quick. And then you proceed to just fill out with your name, your email, which is required, and then the item you want to speak on. And then please indicate if you're going to do a video and leave your phone number. And if you want to speak on another item, you have to go through and fill all this out again. And it will give you the Zoom credentials to join the meeting. And that's it, simple as that.
Okay, thank you very much. And you did indicate we've not received any public comment for this item. Okay.
Yep, that's correct.
Well, then I will close public comment and we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, business of the day, item 6A. For possible action, RPC Resolution 21-05. I will turn it over to Jeremy to work us through this item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This item is a resolution of appreciation, and it is my great pleasure to read this into the record for our former chair, Shelley Reed. That's resolution number 21-05 of the RPC, a resolution of appreciation for the service of Shelley Reed as the chair of the Regional Planning Commission from 2020 to 2021. Whereas Shelley Reed served as the chair of the Regional Planning Commission from July 2020 to July 2021, and whereas throughout her tenure, Shelley Reed engaged in and efficiently guided numerous policy discussions and regular business items, and whereas during Shelley Reed's service as chair of the RPC, she led the RPC in the discussion of a wide range of regional topics, including continued implementation of the new 2019 regional plan, housing affordability in the Truckee Meadows region, public infrastructure and services, and the future growth of our region. And whereas Shelley Reed ensured that the discussion and deliberation on all items that were heard by the RPC during her tenure as chair were focused on the appropriate issues with careful and thoughtful consideration, and she also participated in these discussions in an invested and engaged manner. And whereas Shelley Reed hosted efficient and inclusive meetings and worked with staff in a timely manner to address any concerns she may have had as the chair. And whereas Shelley Reed supported the efforts of TMRPA to provide data-driven, thoughtful analysis for public and private decision makers, and was continually committed to supporting comprehensive and innovative approaches for planning in our region. And whereas Shelley Reed helped lead discussions on natural resource policy and presided over the kickoff of the TMRPA Natural Resource Plan effort and consultant selection. And whereas Shelley Reed artfully navigated leading digital RPC meetings on Zoom during the COVID lockdown, all from the comfort of her stylish penthouse, as we can see right now. Whereas Shelley Reed continually emphasized the importance of public participation in general and increasing the role of public participation in the decision-making process, especially during the COVID pandemic. And whereas Shelley Reed always treated staff with a great deal of respect and appreciation, and staff always enjoyed her efficient and thoughtful leadership during the commission meetings. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Shelley's colleagues on the Regional Planning Commission and TMRPA staff express their gratitude to Ms. Reed for her conscientious public service as the chair of the Regional Planning Commission from July 2020 to July 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Smith.
Well, you guys are making me blush so much.
My favorite part was the
You can
penthouse
see it
line.
from here, Shelley.
I wish I could be there in person. I just don't want to cough all over you guys, or you really will put me in the corner. But I really appreciate your confidence in electing me chair. That last year I was fairly new to the commission, and I really appreciate you all's, that came out wrong, but your confidence in me. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Shelley. Any of the commissioners want to add any additional statements of gratitude for our leadership through the COVID and Zoom era?
Chesney here, yeah, I would. Shelley, you did an outstanding job. Appreciated your meetings, and especially the penthouse. That was quite a view at most of the meetings. It was really great, and you did a good job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, I'll just verify. So we're all in favor of this, but we need to take a
Yes.
motion of this, correct? Or we just all raise our hands and cheer? I'm not quite sure how this
It
goes.
says possible action.
Okay, so I would need a motion to accept the resolution as presented.
Chesney,
John.
I would move to accept the motion.
And I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Chesney and a second from Commissioner Chilavicek. And again, expressing our gratitude. All those in
Absolutely.
favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I'm abstaining.
Your humility is noted, so thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which is item 6B, for possible action, public hearing, the 2019 Regional Plan Amendment 21-004 and Conformance Review 21-009 for the Military Road Power Line relocation. Again, I will turn it to Director Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For this item, we have Regional Planner Chris Tolley.
Good evening. I'm going to share my screen and then we'll hop into the presentation. All right, everybody can see that hopefully. All right, good evening, Commissioners. Chris Tolley, Team RPA. This item presents the Regional Plan Amendment, case number RPA 21-004 and project of regional significance, case number CR 21-009 for the Military Road Power Line relocation. As introduced, the Regional Plan Amendment and project of regional significance are for the Military Road Power Line relocation. If approved, ultimately by the RPGB, would allow the relocation of a portion of an existing regional utility corridor and transmission line. And we'll provide more details on the following slide. Oops, let me shrink. Oh, that didn't work there. For the cases, regional planning staff recommends that the proposed regional plan amendment and project of regional significance conform with the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan. On the right-hand side of the screen does show the proposed relocation, and the proposal would allow for the establishment of a regional utility corridor to accommodate the relocation of a portion of an existing 120 kV electric transmission line. The result would move the line approximately 80 feet west of the current location. The land is in Tier 2 and is designated suburban mixed use by the city of Reno. And a final note, for utility corridor relocations, we are using the annual review update process to remove old corridors once they are no longer in use. So both corridors will remain in use until it is fully moved. For regional utility corridors and transmission lines, policy PF11 specifies that all regional utility corridors and sites are shown on map 3 of the regional plan, and that a regional plan amendment is required for the establishment of a new or relocated regional utility corridor or a site. And then policy RC6 identifies that a project of regional significance conformance review is required in order to evaluate the proposal for conformance with the regional plan. So following from the policies on the previous slide, policy RC10 identifies the criteria that must be considered when evaluating a regional plan amendment. For the subject case, staff found that the proposal was consistent and/or conforms with each of the criteria listed in this policy. And then when it comes to the amount of information we provide for the various cases, we scale it to address a case like this, which doesn't have as many, the proposal isn't as complex as, say, a Daybreak, so we provide less of an overview of the regional or the review criteria for policy RC10 than we would for the other ones. And then on to the same dynamic here, policy RC9. The policy identifies that criteria must be considered when evaluating a conformance review. The regional planning staff found that the proposal is not anticipated to impact the listed criteria. And furthermore, regional planning staff concluded that the proposal conforms with the regional plan. So in conclusion, the previous slides presented a summary of staff's proposal and analysis. As noted, staff recommends approval of the proposal as presented in the motions listed on the screen or on page 11 of the meeting packet. This does conclude my presentation, and just to make sure the credit goes to the appropriate staff member, Shawnee Souza performed the analysis and prepared the staff report materials. I'm presenting on her behalf as she is not able to be here tonight. And finally, staff will be available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Shawnee, if you're listening or when you watch the review of this. So, appreciate that. Mr. Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
We do not have any public comment. Jessica, I do have a quick question for you since you're over there. Can you hit the little minimize button on the computer just to minimize the faces? It should be just that little minus button if you see it on that screen. Yep. Perfect. And you can move that up a little bit for me, please? And then I'll be less demanding. Thank you so much.
Okay, now that we've addressed the sheer difficulties that our clerk has placed upon us.
That might be all of them for the night. We'll see.
Happy to move forward for any comments or questions from the commission. Sorry.
Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner Gower. I have a question.
Yes, Commissioner Gower.
To Chris, you mentioned in your presentation that when the new, let's see how you phrased that, when the new corridor is created as part of this amendment, but the existing corridor remains until the power line is removed. So how does regional planning staff track that removal?
So thank you for the question, Commissioner Gower. That's great. And as I briefly stated in the actual presentation, we are using the annual update process to basically track these. So once the corridor goes through this process and is created, then for this next cycle, we would check in with the jurisdiction to see if it has been removed through building permit or whatever process they require, and then basically use the not administrative process, but we're administering that process in order to then remove the line from our data set, and that would get lumped into the regional plan amendment process, or regional plan update process, like you see in item 6E. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, I think it does. I'm just trying to think through the logistics, and I won't think too hard on it, because I know you and the team there have a strategy for doing that. I just wanted clarification on how that would be executed. So I appreciate the answer.
And I'll build or elaborate on that just a slight bit more. I believe for the last two relocations, we have implemented this process to check back in at the next year to see if it's been removed. And we haven't, I think the most recent one outside of this timeframe would be Wild Creek. And the Regional Planning Governing Board required basically that we left the existing corridor in place and put the new corridor in place. And then we removed that once the transmission line had been constructed. And for that process, we identified that it had been constructed through the aerials, but we anticipate checking in with the jurisdictions to make sure, instead of viewing an aerial investigation for that.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate the elaboration on that.
Thank you, Mr. Gower. Commissioners, any additional?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Seeing none, I would entertain a motion. Thank you, Chris.
Mr. Chair, I'm ready to make a motion if no one else is.
Commissioner Gower, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I move to adopt RPC Resolution 2106 regarding an amendment to map 3 of the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan based upon findings listed in the staff report.
Thank you.
Commissioner Taylor, I second.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Gower and a second from Commissioner Taylor. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously.
Well, do we have a second motion?
Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have to motion twice? Okay, thank you. So that's that was the motion for
The amendment.
the regional plan amendment. So then I would be looking for a second motion for the project of regional significance.
Mr. Chair, I can make that motion as well if you'd like.
Thank you, Commissioner Gower.
Okay, for the PRS, I move to find that the Military Road Power Line relocation project of regional significance is in conformance with the 2019 regional plan based on the findings listed in the staff report, and I can make all the findings.
Commissioner Taylor, I second.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion from Commissioner Gower and a second from Commissioner Taylor. Any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion also carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is item 6D, public hearing on the regional plan conformance review for the Reno zoning code.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For this item, you will be hearing from me, although, as Chris pointed out, I did not do the analysis. This was done by Nate Kusha, but he's not able to be with us tonight, so I'm going to be presenting. Item 60 is for possible action. It's a public hearing, a regional plan conformance review of the new Reno zoning code. I'm not going to read all of this stuff in there, but basically it's all covered in the staff report, and I'll take you through a quick presentation to tell you what happened. Let's see if this works. The CR 21-010 conformance review for change to City of Reno's master plan. And looking through it all, staff have identified that we recommend conformance on this item. Basically, it's a request for a master plan text amendment to align the City of Reno master plan with the newly adopted zoning code. And these changes would apply to all the properties within the City of Reno. So really what the background here is that in January, the city completed its zoning overhaul and voted to adopt a new zoning code, which streamlined and clarified quite a bit of the zoning code that they had. That was effective on January 13th. This process is now amending rather and updating the Reno master plan to acknowledge the new zoning categories. And realistically, the zoning categories are largely the same. They have been changed for clarity. So one example might be previously, zoning code at the city of Reno would be SF 15. And that would refer, actually, the 15 is referring to 15,000 square foot lot. And then they had multifamily codes that referenced dwelling units per acre, and there were some differences. So SF 15, as an example, turned into SF 3. So now you can see that it's 3 dwelling units per acre. So I think overall, I think it's a great change. We went through, looked at all this stuff, and nothing really triggered an issue in terms of the regional plan that we could tell, with one exception, which I'll go over. Generally, the direction was to relax the residential density minimums in many of the master plan zones to allow for less dense residential development. That ended up being mostly a existing neighborhood compatibility issue, as I understand it, and that's why they wanted to relax that. Also, some limits to new requests for industrial type zoning. Currently, industrial is allowed in the master plan category mixed employment. So existing implementations of industrial that are there can stay, but they're looking for all new industrial to be in the industrial master plan land use category and really kind of keep that one note. Also allows for typos to be corrected administratively. That's a great thing because it really just helps you, get things right and not have to go through that process. So that's the gist of the change. There was one thing that we noticed during the review, and what was fantastic was that Kelly Mullen, staff from the city of Reno, reached out very early before this went to the city council to get our take. We're already involved in an initial review memo process where we weigh in anyway as early as we can. But in this case, there was targeted and proactive coordination from the city of Reno to give us a chance to look through the proposed changes in advance and basically make sure if anything rose to the level that we were concerned about, that they could address it before they took it to council, so that when it came here, hopefully it would, everything would be fine. We noticed one thing only, and that was that they relaxed the standards in the mixed neighborhood master plan category to allow for SF 8 and SF 11. So that would be 8 dwelling units per acre and 11 dwelling units per acre. Well, there is some existing mixed neighborhood in our mixed use core where we have set a minimum of 14 dwelling units per acre. And so we brought that up. They said, no problem. We gave them a couple options of how we thought they could handle it. They picked an option, which is basically that SF8 and SF11 are deemed non-conforming zoning types if they occur in mixed neighborhood in the mixed-use core. So that's what I've kind of posted there. It's impossible to see on this slide. But at the bottom, that's being cut off by the Zoom dialogue, there's a little, it says an asterisk, and basically it says SF8 and SF11 are non-conforming in the mixed-use core. So that is the only thing that we found, and they addressed it straight away, and it's taken care of. So with that, I will go to, as Chris mentioned, one more thing, I lied. We're also reviewing this new zoning information and building it into our land use model. So we make sure we have the latest and greatest take on the number of dwelling units that can be developed on any given parcel, based on that new info. So that's in process right now. As Chris mentioned, for a conformance review, we rely on RC9, the policy, to look at those criteria. And as I mentioned, nothing from this text amendment really triggered anything in terms of population growth. In terms of regional form, we pointed out the one case where there could be an issue in terms of density, and they've accounted for it. Nothing changed really in terms of any intensification. So public facilities and services are generally the same. Likewise, natural resources, and I think, did a pretty good job on coordination on this one, so because we got out in front of it early. So no issues there. There is a motion now on the screen and also on page 67 of your packet. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I believe City of Reno staff are also on the call to answer questions if needed.
Okay. Thank you, Jeremy, and thank you, Nate, again, when you're watching this afterwards. Mr. Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
My microphone here. We do not have any digital public comment, and seeing the lack of people here, I don't see any in person either.
I was just going to ask about that.
You never know.
Unless Chris is giving us public comment, he is the only one in the audience. Okay, so I'll bring it back to the commission for any questions of city staff or, okay,
Thank you,
certainly,
Mr.
Commissioner
Chair.
Carey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just kind of curious, and Jeremy, I appreciate you bringing it up about the mixed neighborhood land use designation and that allowing for the SF8 and the SF11 zoning designations. As I understand that that these areas would be allowed, or these zoning districts would be allowed outside the mixed-use core area that's defined in the regional plan. But from a regional form and pattern standpoint, wouldn't allowing SF8 and SF11 single-family residential type zoning within the mixed neighborhood really defeat the purpose and intent of this overall land use category in the regional plan?
Commissioner Carey, I'm not sure I'm understanding the question. Maybe could you please restate?
Yeah, I guess where I'm trying to go with this one is, the staff report kind of mentioned that these non-conforming zoning areas are going to basically be outside of the mixed-use core. And so I was just kind of curious, how big of an impact is that? How much land would be non-conforming within the regional plan under those zoning categories?
My understanding is that none of the land would be non-conforming unless it happens to exist today, and we put the mixed-use core over the top of it. Basically, what we're saying is that mixed neighborhood can exist in the mixed-use core, in Tier 1, in Tier 2, and anywhere that the city of Reno, as long as it meets those requirements of our regional land designations. But if it is implemented inside the mixed-use core, SF8 and SF11 are not acceptable zoning categories to be applied. But if they're in Tier 1, for example, you could do it. You could put mixed neighborhood and have SF8 or whatever.
So there would not be any of this SF8 or SF11
In the core.
In the mixed-use core?
Yes, sir, exactly.
Okay. Thank you. That clarifies it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Carey. Commissioners, additional questions? Seeing none, any comments or a motion?
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Chvilacek.
Thank you. I move to find the zoning code text amendment to the City of Reno Master Plan in conformance with the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan based on the findings listed in the staff report.
Commissioner Chesney, second.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Chvilacek and a second from Commissioner Chesney. Any additional comments? Commissioner Carey?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the clarification on, I was a little concerned about the mixed-use neighborhood land use under the city's new, but I think that makes sense, and I'm glad that I had it wrong in my head. I concur with staff's assessment on this, and I believe I can make the other required conformance findings with RC9. And I think that these text changes within the city's new master plan and the zoning code are going to be in conformance with the regional plan. I think really, I'd just like to say, I think the city of Reno has done a really good job with the zoning code update. I commend my colleagues on this commission for their work, and I'd also like to recognize the city staff, both past and present, for all of this. And I look forward to taking a look at land use changes possibly and on this board in the future. But I think the city of Reno has done a good job, and I think we're excited in Sparks to update our zoning code and take a look at it. And I think there may be some good stuff that we can incorporate too. So kudos to my colleagues.
Thank you, Commissioner Carey. Appreciate that. Any additional comments? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Next item on the agenda is item 6E, public hearing for Regional Plan Amendment Annual Review and Update of the Regional Plan, RPA 21-006. Director Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, this item is our annual required update of the regional plan, and we have Regional Planner Chris Tolley to take us through the item.
Hello, once again, I'm going to share my screen and then we'll hop into the presentation. All right. Once again, Chris Tolley, TMRPA. Thank you for the opportunity to present regarding the annual regional plan updates. First, the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan was adopted by the Regional Planning Governing Board on October 10th of 2019. Since the original adoption, staff has continued to identify policy adjustments, mapping adjustments, and other corrections to be fixed during each annual review of the regional plan, and this is required by the Nevada revised statutes. And most of you will remember staff brought updates forward for your consideration last year, just about a year from this date. Those were ultimately adopted by the Regional Planning Governing Board at their October 2020 meeting. Regional Plan Amendment case for this one, RPA 21-006, presents the adjustments and corrections identified by staff over the last year for consideration by the Regional Planning Commission and Regional Planning Governing Board. Finally, Regional Planning staff recommends that the amendment support the goals and policies of the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan. The NRS subsection shown on the screen identifies that the regional plan should be reviewed annually for potential updates by the Regional Planning Commission. Updates to the 2019 regional plan for this cycle include policy and mapping adjustments, mapping corrections, and a few other items. Here is the official list of the changes, which is also provided as an attachment to the staff report. I'll go ahead and walk through these. So number one, make it clear that the adoption and incorporation of the new or each new consensus forecast will trigger a regional plan update or amendment. Number two, and this is consistent with Tier 3, the changes clarify that a reconfiguration of land use is acceptable and may be allowed. However, a request must be supported by the justification for usage and discussion of how the request will not compromise the regional form, desired regional form. And these you can also see start through an underlined text up there. And then number three, a clarification that the regional transportation plan's conformance review will include the entirety of the regional plan. Number four, no more bad feelings. Number five, a clarification for the initial review policy. Number six, corrected tier boundaries, and those are the parcels, the affected parcels, I believe. And number seven, corrected utility corridors and sites based on previously approved data that includes data omitted from the regional plan in error. So the older case numbers you can see up there, RPA 10, and the other one, RPA 10. The data for these was listed, or it was contained in a separate location. So when we went to gather the regional utility corridor and sites data for the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan, we missed gathering the stuff that is listed up here. And that is in and around the Santa Medio Desert area. And if I didn't mention it, that was previously approved, and those case numbers were approved. All right, on to the review criteria. So RC10 identifies the review criteria, review criteria that must be considered by the RPC and RPGB when evaluating a regional plan amendment. For the subject case, as detailed on the previous slides, staff found that they are not anticipated impact any of the criteria listed in this policy. Finally, and as is noted in the staff report, staff found that the amendment conforms with the regional plan. And then on to the motion. So that does conclude the staff presentation. However, we are available for any questions, and I can bring up the list of changes if we want to look at that again. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. Mr. Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
We do not have any public comment for this item.
Okay, thank you. I will ask the commission for any questions or comments of staff on this item. I'm not seeing any. I do appreciate the fact that the list is getting shorter each time we see it. I compliment staff for that. So if we have no additional comments, I'll be looking for a motion on this. Commissioner Terry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to sponsor the amendment request and adopt RPC Resolution 21-08, regarding text and mapping adjustments and corrections to the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan based on the findings listed in the staff report.
Thank you, Commissioner Carey. I have a motion. Looking for a second.
Commissioner Chesney will second.
Thank you, Commissioner Chesney. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Again, thank you, staff. Well done on that presentation. Appreciate it. Okay. Next up is reports. Looking for members and directors' reports. We'll start with Director Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jeremy Smith, for the record. Short report for you today. Our next meeting is scheduled for October 28th here in this room or on the Zoom screen. Also, you may notice that some of the regional planning staff are not here tonight. Well, one special reason that Nate Kusha is not here is that he is now a father. So he had his little boy Hudson little boy Jude on September 16th of this year, of this month. So,
Congratulations.
and we got to see him this morning. Yeah, he joined our every morning, pretty much every morning, we do a staff Zoom call to connect. And he's been obviously absent for a few days, but he popped in with Jude this morning, so it was pretty cool. In terms of the next part of the update, I'd like to, Damien, maybe you can help me bring up the NR Plan website. So we're making progress on the Natural Resource Plan effort. We have a site now published on the web, and it gives people an ability to go in there and get some background information and see what we're up to. We just kind of, scroll through it, Damien, please. That's kind of what we're imagining the cover. The idea, again, being that this becomes almost like a module of the regional plan, similar iconography, going with the green for the natural resources vibe, right? We have some principal goals. You guys have heard most of this, but basically our first step has been obviously trying to get the data together so we can get that foundation and build our map to, indicate areas that need to be protected, and ultimately that will help us with the policy updates in the regional plan. And then there's us, we're leading it. And then we talk a little bit about Cardno, the consultant that was selected. They have begun, we're really close on a draft letter and email to start sending out to stakeholders to start gathering data. So the process really is kind of moving forward, which is great. And if we go down to the end there, you can see the scope. There's a couple of things in the works. So number one, we just about got this ready to go. We've been struggling to find ways to engage people on the Natural Resource Plan given COVID. And so the first idea we had was a self-guided field trip where we put out a little document, a PDF document with some pictures, some description, and about maybe 8 places you can go visit with a map. And it describes what sort of natural resource challenge we're facing in our region in terms of planning. And you could drive around in one fell swoop, or you could, pick a day and go out there. But that way, everyone can go at their own speed and kind of get a feel for these things in person. So that's really close to being done. Number 2 is a public input survey. We plan to utilize a couple of different survey methods. We haven't actually spent any money or done anything there yet, but we know that we have the capacity, potentially, to do some crowdsourcing. I may have mentioned that previously, where we use the GIS server technology we already pay for, get an app created, get it on folks' mobile phones, and then maybe they're on the field trip or whatever they're doing, they can take a picture and they can indicate to us if they think it's a positive or a negative for the region in terms of natural resources. So that's a neat thing that we're working on getting going, but we'll probably also have some SurveyMonkey. It would be great to have that amazing tool MetroQuest that we had before, but it's just so cost prohibitive that it's kind of a lot. So that'll keep going. We've engaged with the Washington County School District. They're excited. Looks like we're going to be targeting 6th graders possibly for a student engagement project around natural resources. We're hoping to dovetail that so it's not only a benefit for us in the region in terms of getting their perspective, but also a benefit to their science curriculum. And finally, general outreach. We're going to continue to do social media. We're going to update this website. We're going to continue to reach out. And one thing that's not on here that we took off, but we are really trying to figure out, is some sort of a kickoff event. Things were looking pretty good in the summer, and we were hoping that in this month we'd be having a big stakeholder event forum where folks can come, and that just seemed like a bad idea. So we are figuring out maybe a way to do some online events, and as soon as we can get people in a room, we'll organize something to get some public participation and stakeholder participation. Other updates on that front, I did reach out to Donna Marie Noel from the Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribe to join our steering committee and to get involved in the project. I'm waiting to hear back on that. And we have not forgotten that you guys have requested an item about wildland urban interface. We didn't quite get there for this meeting, but I'm really hopeful that we'll have you a short item in October that we can do an overview on that and bring that to bear. So that's my report. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Director Smith. Appreciate that. Are there any members' reports?
I have one report.
Commissioner Reed?
Yeah, Chair. I attended the Stormwater Permit Coordinating Committee meeting this morning, and I was pleased to find that the staff here at Regional Planning is collaborating with One Truckee River on the maintenance, content management and maintenance of the Truckee River Info Gateway. And so I thought that was something that we should say kudos to the staff here. I think that's great.
Thank you, Commissioner Reed. Appreciate that. Any additional reports? Okay, how about,
Mr. Chairman, I'll just make a plug. I know Commissioner Carey's tracking this as well, but just wanted to put a plug in for the Nevada APA State Conference, which is coming up in October. October 18th is the first day. So great event. It's going to be a combination of virtual and in-person. So you have good options there, and I'm sure you could convince Director Smith to count these towards your training credits as well.
please, Director Smith?
Thank you, Commissioner Gauss, Chairman Smith, for the record. That's great. I've totally forgot. We actually, at Commissioner Carey's behest, put forward a panel for the conference. So we're going to be chairing about the NR plan. We're going to be running a panel, so check out for that. I don't have the dates handy, but I'll include them in an email to you guys, and it's obviously on the schedule. But we're going to participate, and we're excited about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Look for legal counsel report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jessica Prenti for the record. Nothing to report tonight, which is a good thing.
That is a good thing. Thank you. Okay, next item is a request for future agenda items. Any request from Commissioner Carey?
Mr. Chair, I was, and this doesn't have to be at the next meeting, but I'm just kind of looking through the rules of procedure for the Planning Commission. I know I'm fairly new. I was wondering if it might be possible to have an item to review those or take a look at them. I think that I would find that helpful.
That'd be great. Teach me how to do what I'm supposed to be doing up here. That would be helpful. I would support
Me
that.
too, yeah.
Okay. Any additional requests? Okay. Item number 8, public comment. Damian,
We have none?
no public comment, either virtual or in person.
That is correct.
Any written correspondence, Director Smith?
No, we do not have any. Nope.
Okay. Item number 10, for possible action, adjournment.
Chesney, move to adjourn. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night.
Night. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Bye.